In February 2024, the NHS organ donation announced a milestone, with 1,000 people in the UK having donated a kidney to a stranger. Organ donation remains a sensitive and sometimes taboo topic due to different beliefs and religions. I spoke with Azim Ahmad, the first person on record to have donated an organ, stem cells, and blood, despite facing family disapproval and going against Muslim beliefs. According to the 38-year-old donor, he has already saved over 20 lives. I met Ahmad at a charity event in London in July, where he shared his story with me.
I am Azim Ahmad, I'm 38, I'm a performance and inclusion consultant based in Newcastle upon Tyne. My kidney got donated at the end of September 2019, so nearly 5 years ago. I had donated stem cells in 2009 or 10, I always get confused, it was so long ago. And through that I became aware that there is a need for more Asian donors. Across everything, blood, organs, deceased donation, living donation. So I knew that, but I still wasn't really doing anything about it. And then I saw an appeal for a young girl who was Asian and she needed a kidney, and it was a local telephone number for more information. It was on Twitter, well, X as it's now known, but yeah, just scrolling social media one night, and yeah, it kind of changed my life. You know, sometimes you get a thought that I should do that. And, you know, it can be anything. It can be, I don't know, donating to charity, volunteering, even buying something. You see an advert and you think, oh, I might do that. But you very rarely go and do it. And I thought, no, do you know what? Something is telling me, make this phone call. So I did. But I had all the testing took place over a period of about 5 months. So it was lots of different hospital visits, scans, getting dye injected to make sure that the kidneys are functioning, and then the actual day of surgery, that was when the fun started, because you go into hospital, and when you're going to donate, whether it's a kidney or whether it's a liver, you don't actually know if the surgery is going to happen that day. Because on the other side, you've got to remember the recipient is somebody who's very unwell. So if they're not fit enough, if they've got, if they had COVID or something like that, they wouldn't be able to. So you would go to hospital and then you get sent home. So I got in, and it was literally, I think it was about 7:30 in the morning, and you get put into your gowns, and then they literally say, right, we've had the go-ahead from the from the recipient hospital, straight into the room for anaesthetic, and then you're out. And then I woke up and I only had one kidney. When I was waking up from the anaesthetic, I was thinking, ouch, what have you done to yourself, Azim? And then I was like, no, you chose to do this. They told you that it would be really painful for a few days, and you've just got to deal with it. But for that first week, every morning when I woke up, I was so much better than the day before. So this was all in Newcastle, so back home. And yeah, I'm really lucky. So the hospital is, in fact, a lot of my appointments, I would take a little jog. So it's like 20-minute jog, which is quite funny when I say funny. It's very different being in a hospital when you're fit and well. You get a completely different experience. And again, when you get later through the stages and all the testing, you're kind of like a hero to them. They're like, you're doing this amazing thing. So every time you go for a scan, they're like, you just get praised, and it's quite nice.
Ahmad received a thank you card from the person who got his kidney, despite knowing very little about the recipient's information.
for altruistic, it's called altruistic living kidney donation. The other person doesn't know. I don't know where it's gone. I've had a card from my recipient and one of their family members. I got thank you cards from them. It's such a wonderful experience because I could tell how much gratitude there was, which was really nice to hear, because straight away the impact on that person. So with kidney donation, it's quite funny. So the donor has a tougher recovery than the recipient. Yeah, I mean, they say you can be back to normal after 12 weeks. I was back to normal within 10 weeks. In terms of fully back to myself, that was probably about 6 months. So in terms of expenses, the NHS cover all out-of-pocket expenses. And if you lose any wages or anything like that, they will cover it. So you aren't in a worse off position. You can't benefit financially from it, but you will not be in a worse off position.
So what are the long-term effects of living with only one kidney for organ donors? I spoke with Lisa Burnup, the Associate Medical Director of Living Donation and Transplantation of the NHS.
The most important thing when you're looking at somebody, a healthy person with two kidneys, is to make sure that if you remove one of their kidneys, that actually, as far as possible, we can assess that they're going to have good health for the rest of their lives. And in particular, we of course look at their general health, but we also look at the health of their kidney, and there are lots of ways we do that. There's lots of what we call radiological imaging, so CT scans and X-rays and so on that we can do, and also very specific kidney function tests. And all of that is part of the assessment of the living donor before we even consider them for the donation itself. When somebody donates, we want to ensure that they're putting themselves at no greater risk than somebody exactly like them who's left with two kidneys and they're left with one. That doesn't mean that they have the same risk as everybody else in the population, because, for example, if people have a pre-existing medical condition, which may allow them to donate, but it may put them in a different risk category from somebody who doesn't have that medical condition. So there are two areas of risk that we look at. One is the immediate risk to the donor, so that's through surgery. So they have to be able to sustain the surgery and have a safe anaesthetic. And then there's the long-term, lifelong health of that donor. So we, as far as we possibly can, we assess that what the risk is to that donor, and it should be minimal in order to proceed safely with donation. And once we've done that, we discuss that with the donor and see if they're prepared to take whatever risk there is. And that has to be a decision between the doctors looking after them, or the clinical team, actually, it's made up of nurses and doctors and so on, and the person who's wishing to donate. Because there's nothing forcing them to donate. They do it for free will. So our duty of care to them is to give them the information they need to make an informed choice. But the bottom line is that the long-term risk to a healthy living donor who's been thoroughly assessed with one kidney is they should be able to live the same life as somebody with two kidneys.
Amar said his family has mixed feelings about his kidney donation. His father praised him, but his mother strongly disagreed with organ donation.
So yeah, there was some anxiety in the home about what would happen, why was I doing it. I just had to get through it. And I say this to everyone, if you're not willing to read the information about it, then you can't make a judgment. And I'm quite stubborn in that sense. So I wasn't going to let somebody's feelings stop me from saving somebody's life. That was what I was trying to do. Life with one kidney is the same as life with two. In fact, a lot of people have only one kidney, but they don't know and they'll never find out. Because I have the checkups annually, they check my kidney function so I can see that it's year on year has been improving. That won't happen because with age, naturally, your kidney function starts to decline. But because I'm getting checked every year, if there ever was a problem, it would get picked up soon, or get picked up quickly. And also, because I've donated a kidney, I get priority. So if I ever need a kidney in future, I get priority. See, that depends on there being a suitable potential donor for me, which is part of the reason why I am so keen to raise awareness, is that it's not just for me, but for all people who look like me. Since altruistic living kidney donation became legal in the UK, which I think was 2014, there's only been about 1,000 altruistic living kidney donors across all ethnicities in the UK. So across all populations, we're a very small number, and we will always be a very small number because it's a very big thing to do. But the point that is really important is the more people who are aware of it, the more might think that, oh, I could do this. And that seed might take years to plant. I mean, talking about stem cell donation, I would post on my social media, I've done this, blah, blah, blah. And people would say, oh, this is amazing. And then I think it was about 5 years after I donated, one of my cousins, who is a GP, she said, I've finally joined the register, so I was inspired by you.
The UK is experiencing a shortage of Asian kidney donors, making it challenging for recipients to find suitable matches. According to the NHS, matching donors and recipients from the same ethnic background could increase the likelihood of finding capable kidneys. Burnap mentioned that individuals from diverse backgrounds can play a crucial role in boosting donations for their loved ones.
The traditional way is to donate to someone you love, close friend, family member, because actually, why wouldn't you if you can help someone and it's something you feel you can do? And I have to stress, it isn't something everyone can do. And people shouldn't feel that they are in some way being pressurized into doing it. It's got to be really voluntary. But if you so that kind of donation is more common in people from diverse ethnic backgrounds or faith backgrounds. The kind of donation that this gentleman seems to have done is certainly less common. It's much more common in the Caucasian population. So 99% of people who donate to a stranger are from a white background. This is quite unusual, and it's wonderful that he's done it, and a huge thank you to him for doing that, please.
The message and the story that you need to hear, not just my message and my story, but about donation, you need to hear it over and over and over again, because it's not just something that you hear once and you act on it. It has to be something that's kind of like a regular discussion or just regularly pops up, because you never know when the time will come for you to make that decision.
Mushimi, from London with a Bangladesh background, is currently on the waiting list for an Asian donor to donate a kidney.
I think there's a lot of misinformation and misinterpretation within my culture, the Asian culture, about organ donation and whether it is specifically whether it's allowed, permissible, halal or not, for which I have an understanding that it is halal, it is permissible, and also not enough education amongst our peers. You know, when I've been growing up, I don't think I've ever heard anyone in my family or my community talk about organ donation or what it involves, or even coming forward, or even not even organ donation, but any type of donation, blood donation. These are things that affect our community greatly. I don't know the statistics specifically, but a lot of our people are suffering, and it is a shame that our people have to suffer when there is a great demand for supply but not enough people coming forward. So I think more people should try if they can to consider coming forward to be a donor.